I said a hip hop, a hippity, a hippity, hip, hip hop, and then you don't stop rocking to the bang, bang boogie. Said up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogity boot. Skiddly doo bop, scoob Scooby Doo. And guess what? America, we love you. Have you ever been over a friend's house to eat and the food just ain't no good? I mean, the macaroni soggy, the peas are moist, and the chicken tastes like wood.
And now, on with the show.
Hey, Biff, what did Han Solo say to Luke Skywalker on Thanksgiving?
Isn't it early for Thanksgiving jokes?
I think it is.
We haven't even hit Halloween.
You know what? I'm jumping ahead. But anyways, we've already dug in. So what did Han Solo?
What did he? What the hell did he say?
May the forks be with you. She's not even a good joke. All right, I'll make it up for this one. Hey, Biff, why did Batman cross the street?
To get to the other side.
It doesn't matter. He'll be back the same bat time, same bat channel tomorrow.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Anyways, those were horrible. I'm horrible. My name is Jacques.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I know.
Oh, my God.
But anyways, welcome to Carnival Personnel Podcast. I'm Jacques.
Yeah. This is Biff.
And I'm sorry. I'm just always sorry. Perpetually sorry.
So
it's Joe.
It's a big day here at CPP. This is the first podcast recording in the Los-eum.
Let me fix your microphone here. You're all discombobulated. Hold on a second.
So the rest of the time I'm discombobulated?
Yeah, you're all limp there. Now give it a whirl.
So we are recording this podcast from Joe's new improved, different.
Yeah, the new Los-eum.
The new Los-eum. I couldn't be happier to be here. I mean, truly, I will take pictures. I will post it. It's a smaller room, but a 360 panoramic view of nothing but game systems. I literally, as I scan the room over here, I'm looking at maybe five, 6 different versions of different Nintendo games. Over there, I don't know how many Coleco games, an Atari game.
And guess what? Not one Coleco game. Like he named the one system I don't have.
Damn it. Christmas is coming up, baby.
Baby. Oh, you know what? I do have that Coleco computer in storage. Remember the Coleco computer
yes,
that I
salvaged?
Do. I have that in storage.
You have the box. The box
yes.
was in. Didn't you steal it from some guy almost?
Well, no. It was stored in my landlord's apartment, and then when they sold the house, they were clearing out. Like he basically used it as a storage unit, but they just literally threw like this Coleco Atom computer from 1985 with the box, like. And like the styrofoam and everything, in the trash.
I remember we looked up the box was worth a couple $100. Because the box was in great condition.
Yeah, and it had just rained a little bit the night before, which like killed me inside. But I was able to dry it out, and it looks fine. And you know what? It's actually doing very well in my mother's garage right now, and it's probably getting more humidity and dampness now than it ever has in that unit from the past 35 years.
So it is so much fun to be here. It's. I've always loved coming over and doing the podcast at Joe's just because it's just surrounded by happiness. Just absolute like joy emanates from every area of this room. Anyways, last week's podcast guest on the sideshow, Darla Black, was absolutely fantastic. I've got so much great feedback. They are just a fantastic person to spend a couple hours chatting with and seeing. And any of my friends in LA, I hope, or my Boston friends in comedy are now following them on the socials. But that was a really fun talk. Was it not, Joe?
Yes, it was. The reason I was silent the first half hour was I was getting emergency calls from my work, so I was like, or emails or texts or something. So I was just like, I was completely zoned out. So I apologize if I seemed very distant, Dahlia. I was otherwise distracted.
And again, we played a couple of her clips. It's the first They comic that we've had on. I love the bit about being on, because she's well endowed. So she's like, it's hard to be,
She presents as very female.
Very female. That's the best way to say it. And she has this long metal hair, which is great. I think she came up with she has this whole thing where it's like, but Dolly, you have long hair. It's like, yes, but that's because I listen to, I want to say it right. Oh God, hold on.
I forget the line.
It's like death metal mermaid grindcore.
Oh, right. Yes.
Death metal mermaid.
Something she made up
grindcore.
completely, but it sounds legit.
It sounds like there's a subsect of it. And then the other bit that we played that I love is when, if I was on the Titanic and the captain says, women and children to the lifeboat, I'd be, it's more complicated than that. Is there a gender studies professor we can talk to? But anyways, it was great. Not sure who next week's guest is because I've been... life has been challenging in all the best ways the last couple weeks that we'll get into, but just another shout out to last week's sideshow guest and another sideshow. We got a couple things to get off the table right away. Biff, a friend of John's, definitely a friend of John's, but our good friend, our great friend, our North Star, Mr. Taylor, has had quite the week for himself in his law firm this week. If you want to speak a little, if you want, you know what? Why don't you take the top button of your shirt off so you don't pop it open with the pride of welling up and talk to everybody about our brother John.
Well, you know what? I have, once again, right? I mean, and I guess I don't think this is his first honor, but, once again, I guess another top 100 is, I guess, and I don't know too much about this Daily Journal as a magazine, but he's in the top 100 lawyers list. So he's been, I think you mentioned that he's been California Trial Lawyer of the Year in the past and stuff like that. So, we all know he's a great lawyer, and maybe that's an oxymoron for some of you, but he, once again, just such a privilege to know such a competent, capable guy, and and as we mentioned a few times, despite the fact that he seems to do some ambulance chasing ish kind of stuff, I mean, we also know that he also is very passionate about actual important issues. I think he's been active in trying to essentially kill that exemption that that police have, where if they have the sirens on, and they kill somebody, they get away with it, impunity, right? So that kind of stuff. So obviously, we're obviously super proud of him. We're freaking lucky to call him a friend, and continued success for the big man.
And I want to say that, I bet, I don't know John very well, but I'm sure that the ambulances he chases are the best ambulances around. I think they're the highest quality. Everybody's saying,
well,
so I'm gonna peel the onion back just another layer here, and we would love to have John on. Couple things about it. Yes, he was Trial Lawyer of the Year. He was also one of 5 partners of probably the most prestigious law firm in Los Angeles. They have the top 2 floors of the tallest building in Santa Monica, and his office was a corner office. One window looked at the pier, the other one looked out at Catalina. 4 of the 5 of the partners were Trial Lawyer of the Year.
Catalina, the island.
The island.
Not the exotic dancer.
It could be both. But
wasn't the island named after the exotic dancer?
Thank you.
Okay.
And so he, and the only lawyer who's one of his best friends, was second and runner-up the year before the OJ trial to our good friend, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Johnny Cochran.
Dead serious. And he had the most comfortable career you could possibly imagine. But he had a big birthday coming up, and he had a look in the mirror, and he's like, and this is what I remember. It was like it was yesterday. We're driving to FNH, and he goes, I got 10 more good years of lawyering in me, and I want to right some wrongs. He loved the people he worked with. He loved his partners, but they were so big that if they took your case, most people settled. So he didn't get to go to court. He didn't get to try cases. It was mediation. So he didn't like that. Also, they would either take a case based on the amount you could win or the publicity. And if it wasn't above the fold, front page LA Times, they weren't going to take it. So he wanted to right some wrongs, help some people that wouldn't be able to get his level of lawyership. He ended up partnering with a guy who was a little younger than him, but John saw something special in Dave and Dave Ring, and they started very small. And what's amazing is not only was Dave on that list, but they had 7 lawyers under them. So in about a 20-year window, he has pretty much mimicked the success of the place he left. He left for all the right reasons. It was on great terms. They're still great friends. I mean, he's referred cases back and forth. That's a big thing about what they do. But he's also been, if you look at his roster of the people he's mentored and the people he's found and the people he's given chances to kind of, really come to work for somebody like him, very diverse. And I hate to point it out, but at the same time, I've been to a lot of places where, maybe it should be applauded when somebody makes the effort to not just hire the right people. But anyways, I saw that today. I saw it going around. I literally couldn't be more proud. And I'm going to point out that I don't think I've ever seen another lawyer naked more than I've seen John.
I mean, that sounds like a lawsuit in and of itself.
Consensual. Was it? How many times do you think you've seen him naked, Biff?
Oh, why is Biff muted?
Biff is now speechless.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now, yes.
Yeah. No. I mean, I don't think we need to talk about, basically what happens in the FNH locker room stays in the FNH locker room.
Now, I will ask you this honestly, and I'm putting you on the spot. Yeah. Do you know a bigger goofball? Like, literally, do you know a big yes or no?
And I mean bigger. Well, wink.
Yeah. Oh goodness. No. Literally, it is kind of that he has that kind of social behavior that belies the stuff that he is in real life, right?
Oh, but seriously, completely proud of him. Love him so much, and I just want to point that out. I'm going to point out something else. I had an exchange with our good friend Scotty Black, who I kind of chastised him today because he ends up sending me pictures of like Japanese boy band singers, and then I realized, oh wait. That's his kid. He dropped. He dropped off our friend Scott. We're happy for him and sad because he did a great job as a dad, and he did. His son is moving from Los Angeles to Quebec to play prep school hockey. It's everything that we wanted, to move out of the house at 14, go play that level of hockey, and so he's completely proud of his son, but he's just devastated.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will feel the same way about my children when they move out at age 30.
And honestly, we've known, I think I met you Biff, just after you had your kid. You knew me 10 years before I had mine, but same thing. Scotty and I we both got late starts. I've known his kid his whole life. I've been around him dozens of times. Absolutely a sweet, polite young man, and I guess one hell of a hockey player. I don't know if you guys know this, podcast listeners, but Canada, there tends to be some pretty good players there. So if you're going from Southern California, if you're going from Southern California to Quebec, you're kind of, and he is. He's a good-looking kid. He's like, I saw him like a year ago, but this picture looks like he grew like 2 feet in the last year.
Yeah. I haven't seen him in a while. So
he was. I'll
hit him up for the photo.
He was in town last year for a tournament, and management and the boys and I went, and it was great because our boys and here his Scotty, who I love, his wife, who's just adorable, and and management were sitting there, and we're trying to have a conversation, and we keep looking over, and the boys haven't seen each other in a couple of years, but you think they were long lost war buddies. Just being loud and obnoxious and just all the best ways that 4 boys between 12 and 14 would be. And it was funny because my boys are a lot like me, loud, and what you see is what you get, and his boys are more reserved, but my boys kind of pulled the loud, obnoxious thing out of it. But I'm so happy for our brother Scotty, but I'm also, would just love to give him a huge hug because I know how hard this is.
Well,
Yep.
great. They
Yeah,
all. It's like the end of Toy Story 3. When Andy grows up and has to give his toys away.
Did he have to?
But I
Look
am,
around this room. Did he have to, Joe?
Right. The way,
But I am psyched to try to go see him and play some elite hockey at some point, right? Just kind of come up and right. It'll probably be a lot of fun.
So I think he thought I was kidding at first, but I'm like, dude, I looked at the map. We go to Montreal all the time. I'm going to talk about going to Montreal a couple of weeks ago with the little guy. It didn't work out very well, but
That's what I understand.
my little guy has a soccer game. So, on my home front, I haven't posted this. I haven't told the FNH guys this. My oldest guy, you better sit down, Biff, because this is gonna shock you. Are you ready, Biff?
Yeah.
My oldest guy, the theater one, the really sweet one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess who's playing high school football?
That's cool.
Guess who's playing high school football for a school he doesn't go to?
Oh, okay. Oh, because his school doesn't have a team. Is it one of those deals, or?
So he did this lifeguarding thing this summer. And I'm not kidding. The people who are on the podcast with me know through my old fandom, my obsession, my sickness, I don't think my boys ever watched a full game with me collectively. Maybe a couple plays here or there, but that's it.
Right.
He has a lifeguard job this summer, and he's crazy strong. And there was one day he literally had to pick a grown man up out of the pool, and two other lifeguards who were football players at Lowell High were like, "Dude, do you play football? Because you're really strong and you're built like a lineman. Why don't you play football?" He came home and he said, "Hey, what do you think about me playing football?" And after I got back up, I'm like, "Well, he has this thing called EDS where he can't run, and he can't run far. He can run like a 20-yard dash, but if he runs more than like 20 yards, he looks like a marionette puppet, like just disconjointed, like aliens kind of built a human, and they kind of got it right, but not everything kind of works the way it should." But I told him, it's like, dude, you be a good line, a good end, a good blocking tight end, something like that. So he was excited about going to Lowell High and maybe playing football, but then got into this charter school. This tiny charter school. He's been on the wait list for 2 years. There's only 100 kids per grade, so there's only 400 kids. There's a swim team, a great theater department. He's excited about doing the theater department, and so that's just the way it is. But then there was an SOS that went out from the neighboring town. The school he goes to pulls from 3 different towns: Tingsboro, Lowell, and this town Dracut, home of one Scott Grimes, and Dracut High had to forfeit their first game because they didn't have enough players. But where this charter school pulls from that town, they worked out some deal where they're like, "Can anybody come play? Please, somebody come play. We need warm bodies." And so that was on Saturday. We got the message. We got the email from the athletic director. He showed up Monday. And he showed up Monday not for the freshman team, not for the JV team, because they don't have enough players for that. It's varsity. He goes from never watching a football game to playing varsity football and liking it. He really, of all the things that you've known my son, Biff, his entire life. He slept at your house more than a few dozen times. Did you think this theater kid would be a football player?
Well, I mean, that's a two-parter, right? Because for one, obviously he never showed the interest, so that's part one. But then part two is just like, I'm also kind of like, kind of partially surprised that you're letting him do it, considering we've had our conversations regarding concussions in that sport and stuff like that, right? So so I don't know, but but whatever. Team sports, just I think you've had him in different team sports, but this is the first one probably that he's wanted to do.
This is the first real team sport. He's done jiu-jitsu his whole life, and he's done
that's not a team sport,
right? And he's done camps but he's never, not like his brother. His brother has done hockey, baseball, and now is the European football obsessed one. But no, he's not done any of those. And you're right. When we first had him, and I was talking to management about, hey, this is how we should raise a kid. I said I would love him to play football. He cannot play football to high school. There's no need to play tackle football. So I go to the practice and I take a video and I send it to her. And then, it's an offensive line play. They're running a couple drills. And she goes, "I don't know what I'm looking at." And I said, "Dum-dum, it's a guard pull sweep to the left. Hello?" And she just writes back question mark. I'm like, okay, the player whose hair is coming out of the helmet like a Viking, that's your son. And she's like, oh my God, I didn't notice that. Because, he was playing guard and they were doing this one thing. But it's like, I of course go NFL films on her because I'm a douche.
Yes.
And, but yeah, I none of us had that on our bingo card. It was like, hey, we want you to try all these things, go out there. But, with the other one, the football. I don't know. How do you pronounce football in either Portuguese or
football?
Oh, football.
Football.
Because he hates the word soccer, you know. So, but when I was telling Scotty, it's like, hey, we can be the emergency contact. We're the emergency contact for like 3 of our friends. One of my son's friends might be moving in with us, who's a sweetheart, going through some stuff. But I told him, it's like, I will send you our passports. I will send you the license. The Corey report, whatever. If something happens, I'm 3.5 hours away. And I thought he thought, oh, you're just being nice. It's like, no, dude. And then I sent him the map today. When I leave Joe's house, I have to get up at 7:30 tomorrow to drive to the Canadian border because Squishy has a game in like North Conway, New Hampshire, that is seriously closer. It is closer to the Canadian border than the New Hampshire border is to where we live in Massachusetts.
Wow.
While you're there, you should go to like that whatchamacallit? The arcade. They have like a bunch of arcades.
They do have
fun
a huge,
spot.
Right. Okay. You going to jump in the car with me?
Nah, no,
okay. But yeah, so we're so that's it. As far as that goes. I wanted the comedy update. So I went, since the last time we talked, former guest on the podcast, Mike Katrobis, ran a hosting class.
Yes.
It was great. I think the last time we recorded, I was just going to go to it like 2 days later. It was absolutely fantastic. It was a 3-hour class where I said this to Katrobis there. I posted it. I feel like I stole money because in 3 hours, he took 10,000 hours of experience and $1 million in knowledge and tried to stuff it in this $5 head. Well, $5 pending the rate of exchange. And then afterwards had a showcase. He brought in a bunch of bookers. The place was absolutely packed.
You said bookers? You said hookers?
Bookers with a B.
Oh, yeah.
People who book shows. And
okay.
And truly, like I said, when I went to L.A., I geared everything going to L.A. L.A. went very well since I've been back because, one kid's in football, one kid's on 2 football teams. I have no life. I run around. I've only gone to 3 mics, but I'm starting to get booked stuff. And it's because Jim McHugh, who was on the podcast, Joe and I saw Jim McHugh. He owns a couple of comedy clubs, and he gave me a hosting gig coming up October 13th. Katrobis gave me a gig coming up October 5th. And there's actually been movement, which is really nice. I'm a little burnt out of the ambush mics, as our friend Greg Bogus says. The restaurants that have an open mic on a Tuesday where no one knows this is about to happen.
You know what's funny? I feel like I've heard these stories recently, but
I'll kill you.
It wasn't here. Where did I hear all of these stories before? Oh, that's right. By the way, Jacques was on another podcast this week. Jacques, weren't you on another podcast this week for, I think, a record-breaking for their standards, 1 hour and 57 minutes. They usually
Oh my God.
So Jacques, for those of you the uninitiated, which is basically everybody, there's a podcast run by 2 open mic comics that Jacques has become friendly with in the Lowell comedy scene. Their names are Wayne. God damn, what's his name? Wayne Russell, and Anthony Eugenio. Yes, thank you. And they run the Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne podcast. They've been running it, I guess, since June of this year, and they each week kind of catalog their escapades through the open mic scene in Lowell, Mass, that in the Manchester area, and then also in the Boston area and Southern Mass, wherever they can get an open mic spot, they're in there. They're in their mid 40s, I think they both have
No,
kids.
they're younger. They're 30s. They're mid.
Really? I
Yeah.
thought somebody said 45.
No.
Oh, really?
I think-
Okay.
and absolute sweethearts. And it's funny because Joe met Wayne at a show. We went to see Tony V, absolute Boston legend. At Bogus' show. Tell him what happened when you met Wayne. You kind of little deer in the headlight moment for you.
He says, "Oh yeah, you're a Weird Al fan," and I go, "Yeah." Oh, is it? Because and coincidentally, I was holding 3 Weird Al singles that I just bought at the record store down the hallway. So I thought he was looking at that and saying, "Oh, you're a Weird Al fan," but no, he didn't see that. I forget that what I say here on a podcast can be listened to by other people. And so he recognized me as Joe from the Carnival Personnel podcast. And yes, he has listened to enough of the podcast to know that I am a Weird Al aficionado. And he was telling me his Weird Al stories. And he actually met Al backstage or at a meet and greet a couple of times.
The same album I gave you. You guys talked about the 3D album.
The In 3D album. Yeah, and that was cool. I was surprised. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's right. You know who I am because of what I say on recordings."
and it's funny because
not just listening, but actually paying attention enough.
Right.
Yes, retention.
Right.
That's more than half the battle right
so
there.
I've said it before. So our podcast. Agreed. Show of hands, completely useless. When it's us three, when it's a sideshow, and we have guests. It's fun, but the 3 of us useless.
This is yes. I don't know what this is.
And so, but they started this podcast. I think back in March when they started to. They've known each other forever. They've been talking about doing it, and so it's amazing. Biff. They pick a different mic each week. And go to it, and they talk about what they're going to do there, the set they're going to try, the vibe of the room, and they're getting to the point where they're past being just open mic guys. And Wayne went to the hosting thing with me. He absolutely killed his set. And Anthony is completely. I mean, honestly, absolute sweet guys, both hysterical. But I love their podcast. And it's been great that they've documented from their first time on stage through their process. And a couple months ago, they did this fun thing where Anthony had an idea for a joke. Wayne went to punch it up. It was funny, but it's not Anthony's style of humor. So they decide, why don't we both work on this joke and do it at the same show together and kind of develop it and to kind of watch them do it and to, it was such an organic thing that happened in their podcast. Absolute great guy. So they asked me to come on.
Right. And by the way, these podcasts that we listen to, normally for the open mic pain is about half an hour, which is a very, I don't know if did we lose Biff?
We lost Biff.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We'll get Biff back soon. They're normally like a half an hour long. And Jacques clocked in, like I said, at about almost 2 hours.
Was it me, though? Because
yes!
Okay, now, Anthony wanted to bail, but there was a couple times where Wayne's like, one more. And then the second time Wayne's like, one more thing. Anthony's like, you said that a half hour ago. Wayne and I could have gone on another 4 hours.
That's true. Yes, you're right. Wayne is the enabler in that crowd. But he was so excited to have you. I think they were both excited to have you on because they called you the father of Lowell comedy, which is kind of a misnomer. I think they mean the dad.
Yeah.
Like the father would be like, somebody who founded something. No, you're just the guy, the oldest of the group. That's all it is.
Yes, I am the oldest of the group, but by only 15, 20 years.
But you're also the most supportive. Like they said, you're the most organized, I guess. You're like the biggest cheerleader of this group of comedians in the Lowell comedy scene. So, yeah.
But they are. I mean, like Joe and I always talk. There's another podcast. We might do a whole sideshow on this other sideshow called TV Guidance Counselors that Joe's got me hooked into. That's great. And we decided we should spend more of our time on our podcast talking about podcasts we like more than our own podcast. And those guys, they do. They have a fantastic podcast. But also, what's really fun is as they've developed as podcasters and as comics, you're fly on the wall. You've been in the car rides to them with the show kind of vibe. But now they're at the point where they kind of painted themselves into a corner, and I don't know if you have to change the name of the show.
Right. I mean, it's kind of a limited series. I mean, Open Mike Payne. You don't want to be Open Mike Payne for 10 years. Like there's no like upwardly mobile path for a podcast called Open Mike Payne. You either advance or you kill yourself. Like one or the other.
What's the other way to say that, Joe?
You either.
Go ahead. I'm going to let you do it.
I don't know where you're going with this. You either lead. What?
You either die as a hero.
Oh yes.
Or you live long enough to
see.
sell.
I didn't make that connection.
Okay,
yes.
I thought that's where.
Or if you're Bob Barker.
Yeah. Oh.
You live long enough to become an even bigger hero. And past transgressions aside. I mean, he lived to 99 years old. Clean living. Yes. I gotta find that clip.
I've looked.
That's a local CBS thing that it was like an interview that he did right before I think the 25th anniversary, like 1997, 25th anniversary of The Price is Right. And I remember I was out in LA, and I think I was like Rain Man, like, oh, gotta watch Barker. They're gonna have this special on. Gotta watch Barker. And the local Los Angeles affiliate. I don't know if it was KCBS or whatever. They did an interview with Bob Barker, and they asked him, Bob, what do you credit your longevity in this business to, or even in life? And he just leans in and looks in the mic, looks in the camera, and he goes, "Clean living." And if you know anything about Bob Barker's, life, I mean, not so much. He was an overall nice, very good guy, but and he was a devoted husband. His wife, Dorothy Jo, passed in like 1981, and he'd never remarried. But in the 80s, right? You got out of Shawshank. You want to go back? But in the 80s, yeah, like he had romantic relationships with some of the models. Maybe one model in particular on The Price is Right that had a falling out in the early 90s.
Let me interrupt. I think we all kind of had relationships with that.
But this was a two-way relationship.
Okay,
yes.
All right.
Right. Oh, my God, yes. And, thank God for the Price is Right channel on Pluto TV or whatever free TV streaming of the Barker era of Price is Right. You can watch just the zenith of, decadence, of a game show decadence. 1985, those showcases, you pray for a hot tub. If you're a guy, you pray there's going to be some sort of a boat or something, any excuse to put on a swimsuit, just any. This is 11:45 a.m. on a sweaty Friday morning in the summer. You're a 12-year-old, 13-year-old me. You're awake. Things are awakening in you.
Was there anything better on snow days than Price is Right, or being sick?
Sick. Oh God, I prayed for the mumps or something. Anything. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Those were the greatest. Yeah. I didn't play outside in the snow. The blizzard of '78 didn't. I mean, I was one, but I'm sure if there was a blizzard of '78 when I was 10 years old, I would not have been outside sledding. I would be inside trying to figure out the closest without going over the price of a refrigerator. just yeah. Another giant left us too soon.
Yes.
Both he and Betty White were animal advocates. Both he and Betty White,
spayed and neuter,
lived to 99, and apparently he had some, I guess, falling out with Betty White over an elephant.
Really?
Yeah. So, long story short, there was an elephant at the Los Angeles Zoo, I believe, that Bob Barker wanted to move to an elephant sanctuary because those are more, I guess, humane. They're better living environments for elephants in particular. And this was kind of a celebrity elephant. And Betty White was a proponent of zoos. And zoos do good things for animals. The best zoos do the good things for animals.
Firsthand, management's friend has been working at the Stone Zoo maybe 25, 30 years. And generally speaking, management is not for cages and animals. However, she knows how much this zoo particularly does to save animals, and it's almost like a sanctuary in a zoo kind of setting. So
yeah, right. So there are benefits to zoos, but they're not. I guess for elephants, maybe this particular elephant. Anyways, I made the story too long. I apologize. But anyways, so I think it went to like a hearing or something, and the zoo won, and Bob Barker essentially made Betty White his sworn enemy. And which is odd because like Betty White actually appeared on The Price is Right during the Golden Girls era, you know. And they showed during the Price is Right tribute to Bob Barker on CBS this past week. They aired that clip of her playing the golf game, you know, that hole-in-one golf game where you have to putt to win a car, you know, from a certain distance. And, you know, she shanked it, of course, because, you know, women golfers. But then, of course, she missed and she goes, oh, I was supposed to get it in. Oh, okay. You didn't tell me.
So this is a callback to earlier. So when this all went down, our lawyer friend John got them together and they had a big mediation. And neither side wanted to kind of put their cards on the table. And John's like, okay, we got to talk about the elephant in the room.
Hi-oh.
So anyway, that's a podcast.
I wish there was a podcast. And by the way, I'm a real dope for saying that women. You know what? I hear like there are certain like when
that's a drop going forward.
As I'm listening to other podcasts and they say things like in good fun that are misogynistic and quasi-racial, like I know they're kidding, but my first instinct is, wow, you're a douchebag,
right?
For saying that. And listening back to a lot of the things I say on this podcast, I know, wow, I'm a douchebag.
And it's tough because as Joe was setting up this, because I brought over all the gear so we could do it here, we're making jokes and I said that. I made a joke. I said a joke the other day as a club in a Gilbert voice. And I do this Gilbert thing sometimes where I want to say a very Gilbert-ish thing. And Gilbert says these things. And then I honestly, what I said to Joe is like, I kind of think of a joke that I want to tell anymore that I haven't told because I don't want to inflectively go to that easy card to play. Women do this, guys do this. Oh, these people do this, or this is that, you know, kind of joke. And we talked about that with Darla last week on the sideshow about, whether you're making a joke about people pointing out stereotypes, you're still perpetuating that stereotype.
Right. And it's, you know what? I don't know. It's hard. Everything we do now is in mixed company, except for this fucking podcast. Everything only the closest of your friends listen to this podcast. I don't have anybody that I know listens to this podcast.
I wonder. I'll look at the numbers. I wonder if I could put a some kind of poll out there. And do you think
would you know how to put up a poll?
No. But I can learn or hire somebody to do it for me. Seriously, I wonder if the percentage of our listeners who are women are less than the percentage of women at Rush concerts. I'm going to say yes.
I don't even know. I don't think you can get a scientific sample like of women to actually respond to that poll. You know, like how do you poll zero? Anyway.
We're hoping Biff comes back.
I don't know. I mean, it looks like we have a strong internet connection. I don't think it's on our end. But, yeah, Biff just dropped out about 5 minutes ago, which you could tell because the podcast just got a lot shittier. That instant shittiness feeling that you heard, that was Biff leaving the podcast unexpectedly. So hoping...
Unexpectedly, or did we see this coming?
I think we always knew it would happen.
So, what was I going to talk about? A little bit.
Bob Barker. No.
Bob Barker. So, my little guy and I drive to Montreal 2 weekends ago. Right after the last time.
Now, when you say my little guy and I drive to Montreal...
I have a 13-year-old son.
No, I know. But in my head, I'm thinking there's a 50-50 chance that both he and his little guy shared the driving responsibilities to Montreal.
That is... not an unfair statement. I do take my 13-year-old driving.
He drives to the border and then you switch.
Dude, I'm good. Thank you for bringing up the border. So anyways, we go across the Canadian border, first of all, and it took us a different route through Maine, through New Hampshire, through Vermont. Duh. Dude, it's like driving through a postcard. I mean, it is hard to believe exactly how beautiful it is. I mean, it doesn't matter the season. It's a beautiful drive. And we went through this border crossing that I can only describe as quaint. It looked like something out of like the 50s. It was like a little booth.
Was it like the opening to the Newhart show?
Yes. It looked... I honestly thought we were pulling into this little bed and breakfast thing, And it looked like you were going into a driveway, and then, nope, here's the checkpoint. You go through the same thing. And then for like 40 minutes through like these little cornfield, like little back road. And I don't know why the map took us that way, but I'm very grateful it did. Highlight for the trip was McDonald's fries. McDonald's fries in the United States are not vegetarian. It's the only place in the world McDonald's fries are not vegetarian. So as soon as we go to the border, it's one of the first things that the boys do. So my 13-year-old and I, over the past couple months, have been driving all over the place to go to football games. We saw the New England Revolution play, Chicago here, locally at Gillette Stadium. Took them to New York to see Manchester U play Arsenal. We went to Vegas to see Barcelona play Milan, AC. And the Revs were playing up in Montreal. So we're like, let's go, And we never get tickets until we get there. It's the MLS. It doesn't sell out. It's the MLS. It doesn't sell out. This is a stadium. This is one of the few teams that has a stadium that is just built for this sport.
Yep.
And we get there plenty of time, waiting for the ticket office to open. Sold out. Wow. They're scalpers.
Those goddamn scalpers.
And so, so management suggests, I use StubHub sometimes. I know you don't like that. Because the thing is, I don't mind whatever a ticket costs. That's what a ticket costs. If I spend $100 for a ticket, I want to sit in a $100 seat. I don't want to sit in a $100 seat for $200, So I just hate paying those. If the fees were reasonable, I'd be okay. But very often the fees are sometimes between 50 and 100+% of the ticket. So, like I said, when we went to New York, it was a $160 ticket to sit way, way, way up, plus $90 per ticket handling charge. So in my head, I'm like, that's $250. I'll drive to the stadium and get $250 tickets. We were at the stadium when the box office opened. Worked out. It was perfect. Same thing in Vegas. So I get these tickets on StubHub. And the line's starting to form, and my tickets don't come through. And they send you an email saying you'll get the tickets at 7 o'clock when the game's supposed to start. And like, that's asinine, And it's like, I'm talking to management at the time. I was like, well, sometimes that happens. I'm like, would you stand outside for a Duran Duran concert that starts at 7 and be hearing the first 3 songs while you're waiting? The tickets, they don't come. They don't come. Now the game started. I'm on customer service. I'm on hold. I got through because I used Twitter again. I'm like, hey, StubHub, I'm at this game. Here's my confirmation number. Here's me and my kid. I took a video. They call. They're like, oh, we're so sorry. Whatever the tickets we have available, same price. Here's another link. I click the link. No tickets available. We're shut out. It's like, and literally go back to the box office. Is there one ticket? He's 13. He's been around the world. He's a pretty smart fucking kid. I would buy one ticket because management, when she goes to Duran Duran concerts or wherever, there's always a ticket available, always. And I walked up to the box office. I would just send him in by myself. Another country, I would have no problem sending him in there by himself and waiting outside.
Yeah, just throw an AirPod tracker in him and go.
Right.
Whatever it's called.
That's what the iPhone is, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah. He has. It's been quite some time since he's fallen for the Wallet Inspector gag. But yeah, dude, they didn't have one ticket. So now we're walking to the car, and these 3 French motherfucking scalpers laughed at us.
And they probably sounded like, oh.
Yeah, I did. I said, no chance you guys are, I tried to sell you tickets earlier. And I'm like, yep. And it's like,
suddenly I've become quite important. Do you have any collateral? Any stocks or bonds? Nothing but a measly little life insurance policy for $500 equity. You're worth more dead than alive. You know what? Why don't you go to the riffraff you call you love so much? You know why? Because they run you out of town on a Z-Rail. You know what I'll do? I'll call StubHub and swear out a warrant for your arrest.
That was this week's, and someone else there.
Right.
Might be next week's and the week after as well. It would not be. Look, I'm not playing on stereotypes here. There are 3 guys with chain smoking. They legally, I think if you're scalping tickets in Montreal, you have to be. And so the little guy and I, luckily because of the app, because of the radio station that that the New England Revolution play here, we got to listen to the game and the whole way to the border. We get to the border, the American border, the country I live in, the country my son lives in, the country we were both born in. I've never been harassed coming across the border, any border.
Coming back into the country.
Into the country. Literally the level of like shakedown. And honestly, dude, it's just ponderous how many times I've flown back. And again, stereotype, from the Middle East. You know what I mean? And nothing. And they're like, oh, where were you? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, how long were we here? About 3-4 hours. Why were we only here 3-4 hours? It's like, well, we tried to get tickets to this soccer game. We couldn't get them. So we're driving home. Listen to the game now. And I turn up the radio. It's like New England Revolution versus Montreal FC. You drove all the way up here from Boston for this. Yeah, we do it all the time. And he's wearing, I think he had his,
your son.
Yeah, my son had his PSG, the French team that Mbappe plays on, like jersey. I'm like, we drive all over the country and fly to see these games. This is what we do. And then he's like, can you roll down the back window? I'm like, okay. There's lots of blankets. We road trip all the time. You know, we put down the seat. We sleep in there for a couple hours if I'm doing a long road trip. Why do I have so many blankets? I'm like, I get cold. And now we're at the point where Jacques always, with their person on you, I'm always friendly and courteous. But then we get to the point where, fuck you. I'm not doing anything wrong. I live here. I'm like, yeah, I fucking get cold. And then the guard behind me, it's 1 a.m. There's not a car coming or going in either direction the whole time we're sitting there. And I'm like, what do you give me the 3rd degree for? I like to go home. You want to check to make sure I'm not like, smuggling people in? Go right ahead. Otherwise, I like to leave. You don't have to be this aggressive. I said, I think I do at this point. I think I do. We're having a bad day. This is really frustrating. I fucking live here. You have my passport. Unless you have a lawful reason to detain me any longer than you are, I'm putting my car in drive. Hand me my passport. And the guy looks at the other guy and he hands it a passport and we drive away. And Papa's like, the little guy's like, Papa, you're rude to people sometimes. I'm like, I am. Was I rude when I pulled up? Was I rude the first 5 or 6 questions? Why was it easy to get into Canada, Squish, than it was to get home, And
you know what? It would have been a lot more, I guess, enjoyable to come back across the border if either one of the border crossing guards resembled Joe Flaherty.
Is that too much to
right,
ask?
Just like, a little stripes action going on, right? Wasn't it Joe Flaherty?
Yes.
Who was the other guy? Was it Dave Thomas?
Dave Thomas. Right. I didn't get none of that.
Neither
loser.
Dave Thomas nor Joe Flaherty. God damn it.
So that was okay. We're not going to talk politics. We've got really away from that, but just a couple quick things. Have you heard again? So we're all up to speed on what a douchebag Clarence Thomas is.
Yes.
Now the new thing is Alito. So it turns out he is just as bad, if not even worse. And there's a writer who did a big fluff piece article on, like literally fluff piece, like a little while ago on Alito, who now has a case in front of the Supreme Court. Guess who will not recuse himself? It's like, dude, look, we know we're getting screwed over by the man. At least have the decency to
lube.
Yeah. Is that would a reach around kill you?
Right. Please.
Seriously. And then, so here's the thing. When the Georgia case indictment came down and 19 co-defendants, I was really bummed that Lindsey Graham wasn't one of them because Lindsey Graham very publicly got on a plane 2 different times to go meet with the governor to try to help find those
those votes.
Well, it turns out the grand jury came back suggesting he get indicted. The ex Senator Perdue and Laughlin, the woman who lost her seat the last time around with the runoff election. So the 3 of them, the grand jury came back wanting to indict 32 people. So when you hear there's 19 people in this RICO charge, wow, that's crazy. That's a lot of people. Yeah.
It could have been more.
It could have been. And it could have been a seating senator from another state. Why is the senator from North Carolina getting on a plane from Washington to go shake down the Georgia governor?
I mean, do you really want that state to have, was it North Carolina that Lindsey Graham was?
Yeah.
I mean, North Carolina needs 2 senators. Maybe it's South Carolina. Maybe it's South Carolina. Maybe they need 2 senators. You know, it would be devastating to just have the one senator.
It really would. Well,
you know?
It kind of would for certain vote day, but no, it's awful. But, you know, it's not all. Look, we're waiting for justice to happen. These crimes that in 100 years from now, hopefully are looked back on as, I can't believe those things happened and that many people supported it. But at least the wheels of justice are turning, however slow. The head of the Proud Boys, who's not as white as I am, who doesn't have as white a name as the head of the white power movement, 22 years.
Is it Enrico, not Iglesias?
Not Suave.
Yeah, no. Rico Suave, man, Gerardo, man, whatever happened to you, man? Shout out to Gerardo.
Is he still with us?
I think he is in spirit.
All right, spinning records for Bob Barker right now. But yeah, so at least the wheels are turning. Okay. Joe has lots of DeLorean paraphernalia and Back to the Future paraphernalia
right
around
over
him.
your shoulder. Yeah.
Let's pretend you have a DeLorean. Let's pretend
a working DeLorean,
working with a flux capacitor,
with a flux, and I have the either Mr. Fusion or plutonium to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity to power the flux capacitor.
What would happen if we got this thing up to 88 miles per hour?
We would see some serious shit.
Okay, just turn around. Don't look. Just grab something off that shelf.
Oh,
yeah,
right. Here we go.
Right?
Hey, we're flashing back to the past. I'm going to my old Nintendo Entertainment System shelf, and I'm going to do a random video game review. That's right, nerds. It's back, baby. Random video game review. I'm not looking, even though they're in alphabetical order, and I kind of know where everything is. All right. I just pulled a Nintendo tape off my shelf. And now, do I have to guess which game I took off the shelf based on the space? Let's see. It's between Monopoly and Muppet Adventure. I'm going to guess. Is it Muscle?
Oh my God! When we started the podcast and we would be at the Los-eum, and I would walk over to the shelf. And I would take a game off the shelf, and from the other side of the room, he would have to base it on where the space. And we're talking hundreds of games that he pulls from, and and his percentage of guessing the game was right. Okay, so this is Tag Team Match Muscle.
Yeah, it's I do have an unfair advantage now because the Nintendo shelf used to be in my basement, which I would frequent, every so often, because it's a basement. And it was kind of, out of sight, out of mind. But now my Nintendo game shelf is literally to my right of my desk where I sit every day. I constantly look at it. And, I'm also looking at it closer now to see which games I should sell because game prices have gone up in the past couple of years and, they're fetching a pretty penny depending on the title. And everything's going up. Hulu's going up and Disney Plus is going up and Paramount Plus is going up. And God damn it, I got to get rid of some of these streaming services and just, pirate off things to my Plex account. But that said, back to the issue at hand. I pulled off Tag Team Match Wrestling Muscle. So Muscle, I forget, it's Muscle, by the way, it's M.U.S.C.L.E. It's an acronym. I don't know what it stands for. It's a trademark of Mattel, and it's based off of a Toei, Japanese anime kind of thing from the 80s. It's like this little, cute wrestling game. It's not very good. It's, I think Pro Wrestling, the original Pro Wrestling, is probably a better game. There's WrestleMania. That's an okay game. But yeah, it's right on the bottom shelf if you're looking for the Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES library. So we're going to go full random video game review. You're going to look up, I don't know if it's under M for Muscle. It's probably under Muscle. Or it could be under Tag Team Match. I don't know. But I'm going to read an excerpt eventually from the Ultimate Nintendo Guidebook.
First of all, what do you give it as a ranking?
Oh, I would give it 2.5 stars.
Okay. What book am I holding?
You're holding Pat Contry's Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library. And now we're going to see what Pat Contry, famed YouTuber of retro gaming, gave it. And he gave it 1.5 stars. It's not a very good game. Oh, no, this is Tag Team Wrestling. That's a different game.
Oh.
Sorry, that was a false alarm. We have to skip down to, I think it could be under M for muscle. Jeez, this is a really bad setup I have. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's because of the dot. It puts it way in the front. 2 stars.
Oh, so okay, you had 2.5, and he gave it 2.
Right,
okay,
right. And I think Sinbad got 2 3/4 stars. But so he advances to the next round. So Sinbad always wins. You know what? He's so good on Star Search. I'll read an excerpt. Get set for comical in-ring action in this tag team wrestling game based upon the toy line. Players select their 2-man team from 8 available wrestlers, and the game begins. Gameplay amounts to mostly a fighting game, with all players having the same ability to punch, jump kick, bounce off the ropes for a jump punch, and sneak behind the opponent for a backdrop suplex. There's minimum strategy involved based mostly on timing and spacing, and it's possible for both human and computer players to get in a cheap string of attacks in successions. So, this is a Pat Contry written review. 2 stars. I'm kind of on par with his assessment of the game, and yes, and now are you checking on eBay how much?
I'm looking. Yeah.
I'm going to say it fetches like $8. What does it say? $20 used. Okay, it's a $20 game. I actually do have an app that keeps track of like all my video games and their kind of going prices based on the condition. And right now all of my video game library, if I were to sell it, individually priced at the highest possible going rate, is worth like $18,000, like literally everything. But that's not happening. But I will be trickling out some of this stuff over the next year.
I remember a couple of years ago, you were like, I might get rid of this or this. And you had the chance to sell something at the high end. And it's fine that you didn't. The mistake you made was what?
So I bought something. I was like an obscure like anime adult PC game from the early 90s that I found at a Savers for like $10, and it was complete in box with all the inserts and everything. And I put it on eBay. I put it up as an auction, 7 days, and I put it like at a modest price as a starting bid, and then or best offer. And I got, I think within like 12 hours, I got a pretty high offer of like $400 or $500 or something like that. And I thought, whoa, if I'm getting this offer now, wait till I reject this offer and hold out for more money. Turns out, I did sell it for like $300, but to the same person who offered me $500 earlier.
What was the mistake you made?
I told my wife about it. I told my wife about my transgression. I said, hey, you know what's the craziest thing is that this is perfect me. Like, I sat on this offer till like, usually the offer lasts like 24 hours or something like that. And it's on my app, and it's in the morning, I'm eating breakfast, and my wife's, walking past me, and I'm like, you know what? I got this eBay offer for this game. It's like, I think it could go for more, but I'm getting a pretty good offer for like, X amount of dollars. And she's like, oh yeah, you should probably take it. And I go to take it, because I'm listening to my wife, and I'm being slapped into reality. Like, hey, stupid, you paid $10 for this. You're being offered hundreds of dollars for it. What are you fucking waiting for? As I go to take it, I go and it's like offer, like the offer went away. I'm like, oh, all right, well, I just got to ride it out. And then, I sold it to the same guy who made that offer for less money because I'm a douche.
And what did we learn?
Never tell your wife anything.
Thank you. Seriously. As soon as those words were coming out of your mouth, I'm like, big rookie mistake. What are we doing here? It's
I know. I'm just the worst.
Because those things happen.
Oh, by the way, speaking of selling things on eBay and getting burned, so I sold this just this last week, I sold a Nintendo Power video game magazine from like the 90s that has inside of it. Sometimes they would put like little special posters or inserts or, tie-ins to other video games. And this one particular magazine had an insert that had a Pokemon e-card or something like that. I forget what it's called, but it's like an Eon ticket or something like that. I don't know. But it's like it's like a rare ephemera of Pokemon, history, whatever. And that jumped the price of the typical like $20 magazine to $200. So I sold it for I did sell it for like about a little under $200. I was hit with an extra fee. Like I was like, this is a lot lower than I kind of expected. I expected eBay to take some fees out. And it's like a slightly lower than I expected. I was like, what's going on? Turns out I stated I would not ship internationally, right? I don't want to deal with that. Fine. So the winner of the auction stated that their addresses or their home addresses, they're from Brazil. Okay? Even though they bought it with a US dollars and gave me a US shipping address, because they said that they were from Brazil, eBay imposed a $5 international fee. It doesn't matter if you're selling, it doesn't matter if I'm actually physically taking in US dollars and shipping it to US address. Even if the seller says that they're from another country,
dude,
you pay an international fee. And it's like, even if it's $5, but
no, it's the nickel and dime.
Yeah,
things
but of course, you read the rule books and it says an elephant. There's nothing in the rule books that says an elephant can't pitch, and there's something in the rule book that says if they say they're from another country, we're slapping a fucking international fee on it. So F you. And thanks for the VIG.
So I think we covered video. No, we didn't cover enough video game stuff.
Oh,
you have more video games. So what was? So I went to Montreal with my kid.
Right,
and the same time.
Yes,
the same day you were headed. I was headed north. You were headed south.
I headed to my yearly pilgrimage to Mecca. Hartford, Connecticut. It was the Retro World Expo at the Connecticut Convention Center in Hartford. And this time we had a guest. It was myself, my two sons, and my younger son's friend, who is a retro game, he's 17, and a retro game fanatic, and modern games, but a lot of retro stuff. On the car ride there, I thought I was listening to a podcast about retro gaming, but no, it was my friend's, my son's friend, pretty much commandeering the car and talking about everything. I don't know if he has the same gift of gab that Jacques has about video games and stuff like that. So I learned a good some trivia or some things about games that I know nothing about because it's a little past my age range, but. Man, the passion that he spoke with on everything from Sonic the Hedgehog to this game called Xenoblade to Fire Emblem, which he doesn't get, all these games that are very Japanese oriented that they know something about, but he doesn't I don't know. It was fascinating, and he didn't stumble over his words. He was very succinct. He could have had a podcast, and not that I would wish that upon anybody.
Day's not over.
What?
The day's not over.
Oh, I know.
Year's here.
Yeah.
Give him a call.
No, thank you. I'm not putting a 17-year-old on our podcast. No.
Let's start his own. Get your kid up here.
Hey, man, I don't know how to do these things. But anyway, so that was very interesting. So, and I was kind of helping him find. Because I mentioned this game is Xenoblade. Xenoblade, I guess, had it's this lineage of games. It started with the PlayStation, the original PlayStation from the 90s, and then now is on Nintendo stuff and Xbox, and they have all sorts of cross-platform versions of the games in this lineage. And he wanted to collect for all of them because he just, even if it's shelf candy, even if he doesn't have the systems to play them on, he wants to have the original games. And this kid was forking over some dough, man. He was forking over some hundreds of dollars for a game. He would spend he would drop $175. He's like, all right, let's go, let's do it.
Did he have?
He had cash and a card.
Did he have haggling abilities?
Not. not real, okay, but like he was just like he kind of knew what he wanted, but here's what the chutzpah that I applaud this kid for that I never would have thought of. Like he buys, you're buying a con from vendors. And at a convention, not a con, like, hey, kid, you want to buy a game?
Wallet inspector.
Right. Yeah, no wallet inspector. Well, they were probably wallet inspectors here. Anyways, he bought a game for like 200 something bucks. It was like 275. But I pointed it out to him because I saw it while he was like watching the wrestling match that was going on for 2 hours. And then I said, hey, I saw another Xenoblade game over here, but for $275, and just letting you know that it's there, not in any way saying you should buy this. And he goes, oh, awesome. He buys it. 10 minutes later, we see the same game at another booth for $175. He goes back and returns it, gets his money back for the $275 game. And then buys the other.
And the guy didn't say, "I'll give it to you one for 70."
No, like I don't know. Yeah, right, exactly. It wasn't like one of those things. But he got his money back, and I would have thought all sales final.
No,
screw you. Like that's the loser in me. That like I'm the victim of the wall inspector. All the wall inspectors know my name.
That's because they have your license.
Yes, exactly. They have my social security number. Oh my God, they have my wallet. Yeah.
So I'm good at haggling. As we talked about, my son, not so much. When I was in New York, it's like, I got 140. Can make something happen? Papa, I have more money. Who's fucking siding?
Yeah, right.
I'm good at haggling. I cannot bring it back. That's where management comes in. She has no qualms with that. Me, I can't.
Also, once the sales final, like once money's changed hands,
she will literally, if it's food, she will get him money.
Right. Oh my God. That's speaking of that. Yeah, if I buy something from the grocery store and it's like, oh, it went bad the next day or something, she's like, take it back. My wife like, take it back. I'm like, no, like I can't take this.
I tell her all the time. Okay, I throw it out.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm like, I don't want to.
Did you think about that? Yes,
absolutely. You
100%.
Right.
But she will, and it's funny because we've been in Trader Joe's and she's like, oh my God, these chips look cool. We should try them. I'm like, it's like $4 for a bag. And she's like, oh no, just go over there. Tell me you want to try. Trader Joe's will open the bag, let you try it, let you try a couple handfuls. Yeah, I want this. Nah, they're like, okay. And we thought, oh my God, that's great that they do this. Now that we have a friend on the inside,
right?
They just bring it out back. They just put it on the snack table,
yeah.
like so.
Right.
So they're like, sure, you don't like this? You probably don't like that, right? It's like, but there's been so many times where I've tried things. I'm like, wait right here, and I go get 2 more jars or another bag of it. So they're really good. We're waiting to see if Biff jumps back on, but he's having trouble. He's reloading Zoom.
Right. So in the meantime, I'll finish my escapade in Hartford, Connecticut with Retro World. So I took out $200 in cash just to have, because I figure I want to have some money to buy games. I held out buying anything for, I was there like from 10:30 in the morning until I closed the joint, like 5 o'clock. We were there all day long. And at around 4 o'clock, man, that money gets hot in your pocket.
It all burns it all. You don't want to burn the hole right through.
I know, right?
It's your skin.
Yeah, and I didn't have my wallet because I gave it to the inspector. So I, had this money, and I'm like, you know what? I'm here. I came here to at least get something because, like, as Jacques can attest, I'm at the zenith of my, I think of my sane video game collection. I've hit the saturation point. Like I've filled every shelf that's in my available space in my rental right now. I don't think this floor can take any more plastic and paper. So I shouldn't buy anything else. But you know what? Here's a couple of holes in my retro game console collection, and one of those holes is the Sega Master System. What is the Sega Master System? Nobody asked. It's the system that came out opposite the Nintendo Entertainment System. Sega was known for their Genesis console. When you think Sega, you're thinking, if you're from the 90s or something, you're like, yeah, Genesis. I played, Madden football and NHL, hockey on that. That was fun. No, they had other systems in the U.S., or at least another system earlier in like the late 80s called the Sega Master System. It was 8-bit. It was kind of like Nintendo, but it didn't have as good as sound quality, and the games were a little But they did have some good titles. And they even had a light gun and all that stuff, just like they didn't have Duck Hunt. That was where they fell short. They did not have Duck Hunt. They have Gangster Town, which is a fun game, by the way. I'll get to that soon. So anyways, I see there's a Sega Master System for like $80. They're asking for $80. And $80, for just the system alone with a controller and everything is a pretty good price, considering that, like, if you go on eBay, they're asking like $125, $150. And I'm like hemming and hawing. And as I'm about to pull the trigger, this is typical Joe. I've never been so video game cucked in my entire life. I'm sitting there. I'm like looking at it. I'm about a step back from the table. And I'm looking at this thing that I've walked past 3 times that says $80. And it's literally like sitting right there on the table. Another guy's like, he comes up. Another younger guy comes up. He looks at it. He leans over to the table. He asks the vendor, "Would you take 60 for it?" Yeah, I'll take 60. And I'm like, I just felt like the blood like just drained from my head. Like like when Porky Pig had turned into the sucker, right? Yep. And like that's what I felt like. So I was like, oh goddamn. Anyway, so I'm like, all right, let me buy this other Sega game. That another thing that I'm filling holes in besides my soul is anything that says Ghostbusters on it. And so I bought a Ghostbusters game for the Sega Master System, even though I didn't have a Sega Master System. I at least bought the game for $20.
Weren't you just talking about a 17-year-old kid that you went down with buying games for a system he doesn't have?
Yes.
Go on.
Yes. You all right? I learned by watching you. Another side small cuck thing is that I bought a case. I bought a game for $20 with no manual. And then literally like 5 minutes later, I saw another game for $25 with the manual. And I was like, God damn it, I probably could have talked that guy down to $20 and got the manual, but instead I paid
Why
full.
didn't you give the tape back to the kid and say, go get my money?
Right, exactly. I should have given it back to him. Because I don't have the balls to go back to a guy and say...
Also, just not going to take the money, kid.
Right.
It's like me, and he's going to meander. It's like, fucking here's the money. Here's $5 extra if you just shut the fuck up.
Yes. So anyway, okay, now I have this Sega Master System game. It at least has Ghostbusters. It has the Ghostbusters symbol on it, and I'm happy. But I'm like, you know what? I still have $100 and something on me. I did see another Sega Master System by another vendor, and it's getting about $430. They're going to wrap up soon. You know what? I'm going to see if I can Christian them down to a reasonable price. So I go over there, and nice guy, I'm like, he's asking $125 for a Sega Master System with just like that one controller and the plugs and all that stuff. And I'm like, what do you like? Would you do 80 on this? And he goes, I don't know about 80. And I was like, okay, well, for 100, would you do this with the light gun? And he goes, yeah, I think I can maybe work something out. It's like, and this in a couple of games. Or can I do 125 with the light gun and a couple of light gun games? And he goes, yeah, we can work it out. So, and he actually has a little TV there that he can test it out. He's testing out the Sega Master System. The controller didn't quite work. So luckily there was a second controller, and we got that. And we got it all squared away. We got the price set up. I got a couple of games. So I got a nice little library, and I'm like, oh, great. And we settled on a price. We got to talking. I actually also bought another old Nintendo book from the 80s that if I had checked eBay, I would have seen that it goes for $10 less than what I paid for it in better condition, but that's beside the point. So anyways, at the time I was happy with my purchase. I was like, okay, I got a big bundle here for $170. Yes, that money could have gone towards, if I just put it aside, I could have maybe bought a PS5 with some of that money, but that's beside the point. That's not the point of my story, as Tony B would say.
But that's not what I hear.
Right. So, and like our transaction wraps up, and then my son's friend actually wants to buy, like he sees another Xenoblade type game that he wants to buy from the same vendor. And they work something out where, like, he wants to do an exchange with a game that he bought from another vendor that had like a broken case, yada yada. And I'm standing there for like another 15 minutes or 10 minutes with this vendor to just kind of help my son's friend go through his transaction. And then and I'm packing my stuff like in my bag, like because he took out everything to test it. He even threw in like an AV cable that didn't come with the system, but now is more compatible with modern TVs, whatever. So I put all the stuff in my bag, and I put all the cables, and throw it in the bag, and then it's 5:00. It's time to go. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. It's time to leave. We all have a good day. My pants are lighter. And
not burn.
And they're right, exactly. Right, they're cooler. And now we're headed home, and I'm driving. And like the kids are, they're kind of tuckered out, so I don't have the podcast going in the back seat. So they're actually kind of quiet, And I have my thoughts to myself, and I got the radio on low, and I'm driving. When you think you just assessing the day and the situation, and you may be second guessing some things that you did that maybe you could have done better, and some actions that you thought you'd done that you actually didn't do. Like, did I pack the power adapter to the Sega Master System? Did I pack it? Because I kind of remember wrapping it up. I don't remember putting it in my excuse me. I'm getting choked up here.
Yeah.
I don't remember putting it in my bag. But you know what? That's just you misremembering and being anxious. There's no way when you get home 2 hours later to unpack the system and all of its components that you paid $170 for, that you would not have the adapter, which it goes for $40 on eBay. There's no way you would have left that in Connecticut. You'd be surprised, my friend. You'd be surprised. I left the power adapter with the vendor.
But at least you didn't dwell or obsess on it for the next.
No, I did not invent 3 new swear words to myself in front of my kids and wife as I'm unpacking it, calling myself the biggest douche, dope, douche. Did I mention douche? Loser. Oh my God. Oh, it's nothing brings nothing fills a kid's heart more than to see their dad call himself a douche for leaving a Sega power adapter a state away. So just a big L. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me just buy the $40 power adapter. I'm not even going to try to buy a knockoff. I'm actually going to shell out for an original adapter so that when I resell this motherfucker, it'll at least have original components with it. And so, yes, now 20 minutes later, listener, I have a full Sega Master System hooked up to my loser TV that Jacques almost killed himself getting up the stairs, and I played a light gun game. One of them is Gangster Town, which is a fun game. It's a game where you're like a 30s gangster, and like all these gangsters are trying to shoot you, but you have to shoot them first. Ooh. And what's funny is that you shoot, like if you shoot the gangster, they turn into angels, and like and they're floating up. And then, like, as I'm, completing the level, I shoot all the gangsters, but I'm still not getting the appropriate score to advance. And I'm like, what the fuck am I missing? Turns out you can shoot the angels.
Oh, you can take a man's soul.
Yes.
Oh, that's some evil shit.
So great.
Wow.
How satisfying.
Seriously.
I'll show you that game later.
The Japanese are really evil motherfuckers.
You know what? I'm sure that they've had. I mean, they're very spiritual people.
Yeah,
and
they're stealing spirits.
Yes.
Holy crap.
So, anyways, Anyway, I'm sorry, listener. Jacques has a lot of editing to do on this podcast, but
no, we're rolling this baby.
You know what that's at. So that's my adventure this year. That's my video game purchases of the year. I'm probably going to be. I do want that PS5. For Spider-Man 2 that's coming out this year.
Oh, you loved Spider-Man. I don't remember a newer game that brought you that much excitement. Maybe a long time, or just a long.
Well, the original the Spider-Man. For
the
PS4.
One that came out for the PS4. You were great. You 100% at that.
No, I think no. I finished the game. I didn't 100%.
Okay, all right. But you loved it.
Yeah, it's a great game, and and there's a sequel, Miles Morales, that I haven't played.
Was it the game of the year?
Spider-Man 2? Spider-Man 1?
Yeah.
It might have been.
Okay.
I don't remember. But yeah, probably.
Because, you were like, it's up there with Arkham as far as this and that.
I mean, the version of New York City that you swing around in. You are Spider-Man in this goddamn thing. And it's so great.
So great.
Anyway, and Stan Lee. Stan Lee is in the game. So that's icing on the cake. But the Spider-Man 2, from what I've seen, looks spectacular. But again, it's like a $500 purchase, and I don't know. I can't. I have an Xbox Series X. I should be playing the new hotness called Starfield. It's like I have it. It's on Game Pass. It's on the subscription game service that you have. Pay $16 a month for.
Yeah, right.
I should be playing that, but I am not. Instead, I'm playing Super Mario Brothers and shit like that from my childhood. It's funny. It's kind of like, imagine if you had access to all these movies, but you kept watching the same old movies.
Shut up.
Same old over and over.
No. It's my happy place. I've watched so much Batman lately. But I did watch a couple new shows. There's a show on Netflix called, and I'm interested if your management has seen this, 1899. Takes place on a boat.
It's not Harrison Ford.
No.
Oh, that's 18. He's in another 1800s movie.
It's like 1899. It takes place on a boat going from.
I remember that in Amish Paradise. Weird Al wanted to party like it's 1899.
Oh my god, that makes perfect sense now.
No, sorry, 1699. Sorry, I'm screwed up. Continue.
But yes, it's on Netflix, and there's a boat headed from anywhere Europe. It's an English-owned boat. It's a German crew, and it was a German boat that was just bought like a year earlier and retrofitted by an English company. And there's all kinds of different people from all over Europe. Different stories. It's fun. It's fine. But then it takes this really kind of lost kind of turn, like halfway through. I mean, it's only like 8 episodes, I think, and then it takes another turn. It's like,
right.
I think they're wrapping the series. Nope. This is just no. Okay, so these 8 episodes were just get ready for season 2, and now you got to wonder: is there going to be a season 2? Like the last writer's strike, we lost so many shows that the wife and I really loved that just didn't, like mid-season replacement. Pushing Daisies was the one that will always really hurt our soul that we didn't get the rest of that series, great series, Pushing Daisies, season and a half. It was a mid-season replacement. Anyways, so 1899 was fine, but and then I'm like, I also, and I think you had recommended it before, but I finally watched most of Vice Principals.
Oh yeah.
I watched the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Then I watched the last one. I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. And then the last one ended, and I'm like, holy fuck! It's like you
have no idea how they got there.
It ends. No.
Oh,
it ends. Well,
because I haven't 100% of the series.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was a one-off. I thought it was a one-season thing, and then season 1 ends on like quite the cliffhanger that you don't kind of see coming.
Right.
Because. At the beginning of episode 8, it kind of wraps up. It's all done, and it kind of meanders a little bit, and then it's like, oh no, motherfuckers, put your seatbelt on. We're just getting started.
How did Vice Principals start, though? Do you remember how it started, like, and who it started with?
Oh, it's I can never remember the other guy. It's Danny McBride
and it's Walton Goggins,
and because we just watched Righteous Gemstones.
Yes,
brilliant,
great,
and
that's a series that could possibly end now.
It could, and I hope it does. I for some reason hope it does because
it does have that satisfying ending.
It did, and so but they were great in it together. So they're vice principals,
right? And they're vying for the principal slot.
And the principal is retiring, and the opening scene is the principal for the last time raising the flag with the 2 of them there, and that principal would be none other than Bill Murray.
Yes, yeah.
And just that he's only in those 2 scenes. That and then the awards ceremony where his wife is.
Right. And she's like, he's taking care of his wife who's like got cancer or something, right?
She's dying, and he's like full-time, like, feeding tube.
Right. And of course, Danny McBride is Danny McBride. Like, he's like, he's Kenny Powers. He's Jesse, right? The Gemstone.
Awful person.
Yeah. Just an awful, talking shit, in front of like kids. He's swearing up a storm in front of like teenagers. Right? It's a high school, right?
It's a high just an awful person.
Yeah.
Just a nasty man who's just so small. Like, It's fun. It was fun.
It's a fun show.
But I was like, yeah.
But how great is Walton Goggins in pretty much anything?
Dude, he's really good.
Yeah.
He's really, really.
He's not just Uncle
really
Baby
great.
Billy.
Uncle Baby Bill is great. I love Uncle Baby Billy.
And I love Baby Billy's Bible
Bible
Bunkers. Bible Bunkers, man.
The other thing is, I have a little sidebar getting into something. I have collected this list over like the last 10 plus years where I find out the world is smaller and smaller every fucking day. I'll give you a couple quick examples on this list. 2015, I go to Jackson, Mississippi to produce a movie. And I have a PA. Really nice kid, sweet kid. He got out of high school the year before, went to community college for a year, then, tried his hand, wanted to move to LA, wanted to produce, act, and get into it. He went out for 6 months, and it didn't work out, and came back. While out there, he wanted to try a bunch of different things, like acting. He took an improv class.
With?
My cousin.
Like
of all the people in the world.
cousin Jimmy Fowley.
Yeah, he was a student of his. I'm like, oh, my cousin, blah, blah, blah. And when I said his name, he's just looking at me like, there's not a lot of movies shot in Jackson, Mississippi. This is the only one I've ever done. Like, so what are the chances that we end up, and he's supposed to be with me for like 6 weeks doing this movie. So I get a text message from my niece about 2 weeks ago, about a week and a half ago on a Saturday night saying, this is fucking weird. A friend of mine said, hey, this bar is fun. Hanging out here for a couple hours. Bartender is really cool. All of a sudden, I hear the bartender playing something for somebody a few people away. He goes, hey, can I see that? And he goes, yeah, sure. And she looks at his phone and looks up at him and says, why are you playing Dan Cray songs? He goes, oh, I'm in a band with him. And it's a drummer, Jacques Lambert. And there's that look that you have. It's Sean. It's Sean Keneally.
Yeah.
It's the bartender. How many bars are in Boston that my niece starts up and she hears the song Tattoo and goes, can I see that?
Wow.
And then, so they have been hanging out for a few hours, just hanging out. He's at a small bar, just really friendly guy. Dude, what are the fucking odds of that? So he ends up texting me saying, oh, he texts all the time. He goes, oh, I keep meaning to text you. You have to watch this show Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a big Thor thing. The last Thor movie is all about it. And this is a Norwegian TV series, like an 8 or 10 episode. And I've seen it before. I'm like, I don't know if it's my thing. Like, it's overdubbed, But he's like, for months, he's been, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. And I watched it. And it was fine because management, was out of town last week, and so I watched it. It was fine till the last episode, and then I'm like, And then I looked at all the reviews, and it was one of those shows where it's like, how did you go from, hey, this is a good show, or this is a great show, to
Right.
And I don't care if I give it away. It's another one, because no one that listens to this is going to watch it. It's another one of those, it was all a dream.
All a dream?
Yeah. The cop-out of cop-outs. So this kid thinks he's Thor. He's lost his father, mom and his brother and him have to move back to this town they grew up in. They left years ago, blah, blah, blah. And it turns out it's all a fucking dream.
Oh, stupid.
Not a dream, but it's all in his mind,
right?
Type thing.
Like the ending of St. Elsewhere?
Oh, dude. It's like, come on, dude. After Bob Newhart, just stop. After Newhart.
Oh, yes.
After Newhart.
Newhart's the best.
So we're going to wrap it up, but let's wrap it up. You watching anything?
I think I was telling you earlier, I finished this series, which just wrapped on HBO Max. I'm calling it HBO Max. I don't care. I'm calling it Twitter. I'm calling it HBO Max. I'm not giving into the man. I'm dead naming these things. There's a show called How To with John Wilson.
Yes.
It's a three seasons. Just finished the series finale like last week. 6 episodes each season. It's executive produced by Nathan Fielder, who did Nathan for You and The Rehearsal on HBO. Great series on them in and of themselves. But How To with John Wilson was kind of under my radar until just recently. It just kind of popped up on the suggested thing. And it's great. It's a great little series about a filmmaker out of New York, like a 30-something-year-old guy, and he documents kind of slice of life of New York in different parts of America. And each episode is like how to put up scaffolding, which is like, and it starts off with, hey, I noticed there's a lot of like scaffolding in New York City, and I guess it stems from this event where a student in 1976 got hit in the head from a piece of a building, and then they named the corner after the student, and then they put in legislation to protect other people from getting hit with buildings. So, but then I guess it then explains how the city bastardized that law and exploited it to basically say, well, now instead of just making it a temporary thing, we can make this sort of like a permanent thing. And now there's like scaffolding is big business, and it's endemic in New York City.
It's a scam.
It's a scam.
90% scam.
Right, but it's also not going to probably stay inside New York City. It could extend to other cities.
And it's horrible looking.
It's awful.
It's like, how can we make these even brand new buildings look like they're permanently under construction?
Where the cure is worse than the disease. But then there's like but then there are other like more insightful episodes about like just humanity, and just like just living, just life in general. But it starts off as like how to track your package, but it ends up talking about like cryogenics. That's the final episode. Spoilers, but it's such a fantastic little, and they're all 30-minute episodes. And they're all just so well done. They're awkwardly narrated. Like he actually like leaves in like or inserts like throat clearing, and and when he's narrating, a lot of the footage is candid shots of New York City, like that of people doing things that they didn't realize didn't realize they were being filmed. And it's all done very well, and it's only 18 episodes. If you have Max, give it a shot. How To with John Wilson. There's even an episode where he attends his own like Emmy party, and he gets
that's beautiful.
And he's invited to the Emmys, but then like he's not on the Emmy after party list on HBO's after party list. Like he's not like, and he shows like he's documenting everything. Like he has a hidden camera on himself at all times. And it's like, I don't, the bouncer or the woman with the clipboard is like, I'm sorry, I don't see your name on the list. And he goes,
gatekeepers.
He's like, okay. Can I come in anyway? And it's like, no, sorry.
Oh, that's so cool.
And he's all by himself. Like he doesn't have a guest. He's
doesn't have a big,
he's got nothing. Anyway, it's
worth the look.
It's a fun series, and it's insightful, and it's reflective.
Well, and it's also not, you have to watch it in order,
right?
It's not telling a story.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to watch in order because he does do callbacks later on, but and it does like there's an episode where it hits like it ends right when the pandemic starts. Oh, so it's a nice little time capsule.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough podcasting.
Parenting tip.
Parenting tip, I would say, is make sure that you don't set a bad example for your kids at all times. Just, lead by example. Case in point, throughout the entire Retro World Expo, I withheld from buying and splurging, and I think my kids picked up on that. But then they also saw that I had the itch to spend. And so not only did I cave and buy a bunch of shit, my older son also spent $70 on a large Pokemon plush because of course he did.
2 hours of editing for me right there.
and his bedroom is right behind you. The door's open. You can see it's not a large room.
No,
it's a modest sized bedroom. And he's of an older age. He's
finding his way, Joe.
He's finding his way. Right, yeah, but you know what? I think he learned it from watching me. That he had to spend that money that he didn't have to. Like, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's so I would say lead by example.
Here's my parenting tip. You're the parent. You've been around. You know what the fuck you're talking about.
You bought your tickets.
I'd say let them crash. So, when management first got pregnant, I did not push sports. I've talked about this earlier with Biff, that he was surprised I'm letting my oldest kid play football. I've always said he could play football. We didn't know he'd have these medical things and not be into sports, but I think 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds playing tackle football is ridiculous. It is stupid. Even hockey to a certain, the travel hockey and, dude, play no check hockey until you're like 12, 14. You don't need those concussions. It's like you don't need to be the way I am now. You want better for
a
your
successful
kids.
podcaster.
So we didn't push sports on him, but you had to have something. And long story short, I'm 5'7". My wife, like my Hyundai Santa Fe, made in Korea, so I knew my boys weren't going to be big. Anyways, so the martial arts turned my life around when I was 12 or 13. And it made me hockey was my whole world. An event happened. I was thrust into the martial arts world. It changed everything. I went from being the worst player on the worst team to okay at this game. And it all stemmed from there. And I had said that. It's like, and then when it turned out he had some physical challenges, he could still do this. And we never pushed competitive, like, you got to go to tournaments, you got to get this belt. It was just something we did a couple times a week his whole life. And I had always said, it's the building blocks, much like when they start at piano. And again, with your oldest son, when he was their piano teacher, it was when we sat down and we started talking about the lessons, it was more important for me that they were able to read music and have a broad understanding, not like get ready to go to Berkeley, not be these professional musicians and prodigies, but just have a nice base to pull from. I didn't want them to learn songs. I wasn't looking for them to, we got 3 months before my mom's Christmas party, let's get 4 songs out of them. It's like, no, let's learn 1 song, read music, and I've never pushed that. So with jiu-jitsu, it was the same thing. That with his physical challenges, he could do this. He's always creepy strong. He could excel at it as he want, or what we always did, just kind of, this was just part of our life. No tournaments, no belts, but he's done it his whole life. But I've always said, and the little guy has learned this over the last year getting to, European football. It's such a building block. If you understand your body and leverage, and again, my little guy's only 5 feet tall. He's 13. He's playing, there's a lot of 13-year-old kids who are 6 feet tall, 5'8", 5'9", 10, 100 pounds. But because he understands leverage and stuff, like, you can't push him off the ball, like you would think you could. So now that the oldest one is playing football, and he even talked to the coach, and the coach first practice puts him on the line. And it's all about throws. It's all about either moving somebody 1 foot this way or 1 foot that way, or not being moved 1 foot this way. Depends on what side of the line you're on, offense or defense. And so he has basically come to the realization that all the years he's like, this is stupid, why do I have to do it? I'm like, you find another sport that gets you out of the house a couple days a week, to be physical, to be active, just so you're not here, to have a healthy, balanced life. We'll do whatever you want. But until you find something that you want to do, this. And before the pandemic, he ended up getting into water polo for a couple seasons, and we stopped doing jiu-jitsu. And then when that ended, we went back to jiu-jitsu, and then when the pandemic, Muay Thai boxing. So he has this hand fighting ability between boxing and Muay Thai, and now this. And so he's surprising himself that it's like, oh, fuck. The old fuck did know what he was talking about, that this is a balancing thing. So he's not a big kid, my oldest one. He's 5'8", 180, mostly shoulders, but he's on the line against bigger kids who cannot move him, or he can move them. And again, it's not about like lighting somebody up at the line. Can the guard move? You know what I mean? A defender just 1 foot left or right so that the running back can go through there. That's the whole thing. Can you hold this guy up 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, so the quarterback has that extra second or half second to throw the ball? That's what being a line guy is, and so he's realizing, it's like, he was nervous. How will I be able to do this? And like I said, the first practice, when I take a video and they have him guard and they have him doing plays and sweeps and stuff like that, yeah, he was. So, I mean, you know what the fuck you're talking about. Sometimes, sometimes.
Mr. Miyagi, I don't understand what waxing this car has to do with karate.
Right. Except I had him, painting this fence for 15 years before it came into use. But no, I mean, so that would be my parenting tip. You know better. So, stay to your convictions.
Yep.
Well, but I never said, do this because I said so. I always gave him like legit reasons, and I've always left the door open. Talk me out of it. Why? And if your argument is, I don't want to do it, I want to sit here and play video games, That's not happening. You can play. It's a life balance thing.
Look at Joe. Look at his.
No, and then they look at you, and then they come over here, and they're like, "I want to be like this."
And I'm like, no, this is not a sustainable lifestyle.
Yes, but look at all this stuff in this room of happiness. You know, but seriously,
Dimly lit room of happiness.
it's what, dude. This is heaven. Like
it's
literally,
it's fine. At least I'm surrounded with my games now. Then,
he died doing what he loved.
Right? Yes, crying as he left from a bridge. So,
all right, there you go.
anyway, so we'll pour one out for Biff's internet connection. It's a sad day.
The tech guy,
Right?
the guy whose job is IT.
Yeah, there was something about it had to reinstall, or I don't know, some nerd shit. I don't understand. I blame. I think I blame myself. Really, I blame myself for trusting Biff's internet connection and the whole system in general. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, anyways, I'm glad that Jacques was able to carve out some time from his busy podcasting schedule and his busy guesting on other podcasts schedule and his busy parenting schedule and his busy comedy schedule. I mean, he's a busy man, and to have a friend like Jacques is to be blessed, really, in this world. Honestly, this is it's so infrequent that my wife goes out of town for a couple of days, and she'll allow me to have other people over. And unfortunately, I didn't follow your rules. I did tell her that you were coming over. She was fine with it, though. I took a risk. She was fine, so we're good. I'll open some windows so we can, air it out. Understandably, no, it's fine. Everything's fine. How are you? But yeah, what a fun podcast. What are we clocking in at? Let's see the old clock on the wall. What does it say? An hour and 41 minutes. Yeah, maybe when you get this, it'll be like an hour and 45 because Jacques will add stuff to it. But man, you know what? I say it's time well spent with friends. You're in good hands here at Carnival Personnel Podcast. Thank you for listening. Why do you listen? I don't even. You know what? Don't answer because I can't hear you. Talking to the radio is a sign of. They say a sign of intelligence. Like you're engaging and no, don't talk to the TV. I mean, even if you're honestly, unless you're watching like a game show, then you can talk to the TV. You can say higher, lower. What are you doing? Take the deal. No, there's no S. Like that sort of thing. France. What is France? Are you kidding me? Like that. These are things you can yell at a TV, but don't yell at a podcast. It doesn't do anything. Just don't. And you know what? If you try to reach us on social media, you can't. You cannot. Sorry, this is the least engaging podcast ever. You're just not going to... Jacques getting up to stretch. He took his headphones off. You're not going to hear from him again. He's gone. He's already in the car. He's left me like his dad left him so many years ago. Why did I bring that up? Why do I hurt him so? Why do I push away those that love me the most? I don't know. I don't know these answers. And why do I keep doing this podcast? I'm terrible at these things. I am god-awful. I am no virtuoso at podcasting like Jacques Lambert. I mean, really. I mean, you want to talk about a master of ceremonies, big and small, short and tall. We're talking Jacques Lambert, not Carnival Personnel. I mean, of course, yes, Biff's nice, I'm nice, fine. But Jacques Lambert, my cream of the crop. You know what? And Jacques going to have a fun time editing this, I don't know what song he's going to play over me talking right now. I don't know if I'm still talking. I could have already stopped talking. You're probably hearing Dan Cray right now. You're probably hearing Dan Cray's voice over my voice. Usually he tries to time this out so that Dan's voice starts when my voice ends. But nah, I don't know. I don't know this time. I think there's going to be some overlap here. You should, do this. Fade me out as Dan starts singing.
She said it's all. How you see that it's all and who know. And if you stay too long where you don't belong, the cracks start to show. It's a delicate way you're holding on to, and it's hard to explain and understand. And it's part of the fury, and it's all of the madness, and the delicate way you traveling hand, the delicate way you traveling hand. She said it's long enough that it's almost gone, and I can't take anymore. That it's all too much, that it takes too long, and it's nothing like it was before. It's a delicate way you're holding on to. It's hard to explain or understand. It's part of the fury, and it's all of the madness of a delicate way you're traveling hand, a delicate way you're traveling hand.
And then like fade me back in like later, and then like I'll end the Beyond Id song or the Dan Cray song with "Don't Forget